Good morning. Today we are starting Unit 5 with CO36. I can interpret and write mathematical and algebraic expressions with addition and subtraction. So we are using algebra. We're getting into the algebra part. So expressions, not an equation. So we're just doing expressions first. An expression doesn't have the equal sign. The equations equal something. It has one side equals the other side. We are just doing an expression now that has the operations, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. We're just focusing on adding and subtracting today. So, and expression, the definition for the expression is it's a mathematical statement. So for it to be an expression, it's just a mathematical statement. It does not have the equal sign. So translating a verbal phrase into a mathematical expression and vice versa can be difficult because it's almost like going from one language to another. Knowing what pickle is in Spanish is like knowing which operation difference represents. So they don't always make sense. Feet down, please. So we're going to fill out the chart below to help you learn and remember some terms. So when we hear certain phrases, we will know if we are adding or subtracting. So in addition, if you see the word sum, total, or plus, we will know that we are going to be doing the operation of adding. So everybody should be writing this down. For subtraction, you might see the difference. So we saw that when we were looking at our last objective, with the difference of the values, we knew we had to subtract. I had a couple people come up and say, I wrote down the formula. It says difference of values. What does that mean that I do? So it's important that we know that difference means to subtract. You might also see less than, subtracted from, or subtracted by. So it's important to know that all of these means that we are going to be subtracting. So we need to remember that when we see a number in the expression, we see the words a number, it means that it's an unknown value. So we're not sure what the number is. It's just a number. It's a value, and it's represented by a variable. A variable can be a letter. So a lot of times you might see when you say a number, you'll put an N for the number. Sometimes you can see it as any letter though. So that's why we don't use the X for multiplying anymore, because that variable could be an X. So we don't want to think that when we see an X now it means to multiply. When we see an X, it means it's a variable. That's why to multiply we use the dot now. This is because we're in the big kid math. We're into algebra. We're going to use the dot to mean multiply instead of an X, because that X could be the variable and we don't want to get confused. So now we don't use letters to represent an operation. We'll use the dot to represent that operation of multiplying. Does that make sense? So N, X, they're both a variable. You could have A, you could have Z. They're all variables that represent an unknown number. Something to keep in mind when we're looking at adding and subtracting in an expression. It doesn't matter in what order numbers are added. 7 plus 3 is the same as 3 plus 7. They both equal 10. But order definitely matters with subtracting. 10 minus 8 is 2, but 8 minus 10 is negative 2. Different places on our number line. So when we subtract, the order that we are subtracting matters. So this is going to really make a difference when we do our work. Think about phrases like subtracted from. If we say 10 subtracted from 2, how do you think we would write that? 10 subtracted from 2. Am I going to write that as 10 minus 2? Because we're taking 10 away from 2. So it would not be 10 minus 2. We have 2, and we're taking 10 away from it. So be careful when we're looking at this, when we're subtracting. If it's subtracted from, we're taking it away from that second number. Nolan.
And subtracted by would be 10 minus 2.
Correct. Subtracted by would be 10 subtracted by 2. So that would be the 10 minus 2. Subtracted from means you're taking away from the second number. So that was a good observation, Nolan. Same thing with less than. 10 less than 2. It means we're starting at 2 and we're going 10 less than it. So 2 minus 10. Right? So when we see less than and subtracted from, it means we start with the second number and subtract the first number. But when we find the difference and subtracted by, it means you go first number, subtract the second number. So we have to be careful with that. So let's do some together. Write each word phrase as a mathematical expression. So if it's 58 more than 13, how am I going to write that? 58 more than 13. JT.
13 plus 58.
We could write it as 13 plus 58. James?
58 plus 13.
We could also write it as 58 plus 13 because we said when we add, it doesn't matter the order. We get the same answer. So I would accept it either way. Now we have 82 subtracted from 101. How would I write that, Bennett?
We'll do 101 minus 82.
101 minus 82 because it's 82 subtracted from 101. So we have to start with 101 and take away that 82.
Do you want us to put in the answers? Yeah.
No, this is not an equation. This is an expression. So expressions don't have the equal sign. So we don't have to solve anything. And here's why. Look at our next one. The difference of a number and 25. How would I write that? The difference of a number and 25. What do you think is that, Nora? So why did you do 25 minus n? Good catch. It is not 25 minus n. It's the difference of a number. So that's why we use n, or any variable. You could use x, you could use a, any variable. I'm going to use n because it's number. It starts with the letter n. So the difference of a number and 25. 25 minus n and n minus 25 are not the same. When we're saying the difference of, we start with the first number, which is n. Can I solve it? N minus 25? Can I give an answer? No, because we don't know what n represents. It's an unknown value. So when you have an expression, you don't have to solve it unless the directions are telling you to solve something. So for this, it's just writing the mathematical expression. You're writing the expression, you're not solving. So you're just taking the words and you're putting it into the expression. Does that make sense? Be careful with the subtracting. You have to put it in the right order. With the adding, I'm not going to be particular on. I'm not going to say, oh, that's the wrong order, because you're going to get the same answer. But subtracting, we would get a very different answer if we flip it. So make sure it's going the right way. You're going to finish off these last ones on your own. And let's look at our second page. This time, they're giving us the expression, and you're going to put it into words. So if we have 801 minus 475, how am I going to write that using words? Jillian.
801 subtracted by 475.
801 subtracted by 475. Is that the only way I could put that expression? No, because we saw there were 4 different ways. What would be another way that would work? Aiden?
475 subtracted by 108.
No. Could we say 475 subtracted by 801? No, it's not going to give us the same answer, is it? Yeah.
475 less than 801.
We could say 475 less than 801. So we start at 801 and we subtract away. We're going less than 475. JT?
801 decreased by 475.
801 decreased by 475.
475 subtracted from 801.
475 subtracted from 801. You could say the difference between 801 and 475. Yeah.
How many ways do we have to?
You need to put one. My point is there is not just one answer. You need to write one way and make sure that it works. So double check those subtracting ones to make sure that it works the way you're writing it. You only have to put one way. So to be completely honest, if it's one of the tricky ones, unless you're absolutely confident in it, don't use it. So we know subtracted by, subtracted from can be confusing. If you're not 100% certain, don't use that way. You could say the difference between the two numbers. When you get to an N, what are we going to write out in words? A number. So when you see that variable, you write it out as a number. You don't say N minus 12. You would say a number minus 12. So you're going to write it out. Or you could say like the difference of a number and 12. So when you see the variable, you call it a number when you're writing it out. Let's scroll down. You're going to finish up that section. Oops. Then we have some questions that you have to answer. Which is greater, the sum of 5 and 15 or the difference of 30 and 9? So you have to ask yourself, what math am I doing? What would be the solution? So the sum of 5 and 15, what would that be? Aiden H?
15 plus 5.
Yeah, it's 5 plus 15. So what is that? What is the sum of 5 plus 15?
20.
20. So I need to decide, is that greater than the difference of 30 and 9? What is the difference of 30 and 9, Aiden?
21.
Yeah. because it's 30 minus 9, which is 21. So I'm going to circle this one because that's the greater number. 21 is bigger than 20. So you have to solve both of them and then circle the one that's greater. So you're going to do these two, circling, solving both, making sure you know you're doing your math correctly, and then answering the question, how is an expression different from an equation? So you're going to work quietly on finishing both of these pages. So you're finishing both pages, going from the words to the expression and going from the expression to the words, and then answering our word problems there. For my friends at home, we hope you are well and we hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.